Hello, everyone. As the title suggests, we are going to give quite a few thoughts and considerations regarding the events that happened Saturday. First, I'm going to start with a couple of disclaimers. If you don't want to hear them or degaff and just want to get to the meat and potatoes, just keep hitting that skip until it sounds like I'm done. Because I'm not going to timestamp this. I'm not doing any of that shit. So, first things first, we're going to talk about my credentials. So, I was in the U.S. Navy for 2.5 years, 2015 to 2018. I was a hospital corpsman. I was blue side originally, and then I was with the Marine unit in the process of going green side when I got injured, and then Big Navy forced me out. So I am not FMF. I am not certified in that, but I did go with Marines, and I did train briefly with Marines. So I do have some tactics involved, and I do know how to operate a rifle. And medically, I'd say at least equivalent to an EMT intermediate because I was nationally registered as one. So that's lapsed and expired. But those are basically my credentials. So I have some military service. I have some combat training. Never deployed. Never went overseas. Never saw combat. None of that shit. Um, the next thing I want to say is we are going to talk about something very, very dangerous, and it's going to sound like we are glorifying or giving credit to someone doing something that would have meant the end of life of some human being. Okay? And I want to be very, very clear before we get into this. These are examples, a very relevant example of the things that my channel has basically been prepping and talking about. Someone tried to do that for nefarious purposes. All right, regardless of what your opinion is on Trump, because I don't like Trump. I don't. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit as well. But you can even reference some old videos. I don't like Trump. That does not mean I want him dead, and that does not mean that I condone the actions of that individual. However, the thing that I will give credit for is that this is the stuff that I'm talking about with my video about being a DA guy, having initiative, seeing an opportunity, and trying to do it. I don't support what he did. I don't want a presidential nominee or a former president dead. I want our government to be displaced and reevaluated. And I would like Joe Biden to be put in a fucking mental health facility, of some sort of like retirement home because he's fucking dementia. That does not mean I want them dead. That does not mean that I want people who have families and some are good in the government to die. I want them to not be in government because they are choking America and bleeding us dry. So, all that being said, let's talk about what happened. I am not tactical enough to give you an in-depth presentation. You have a lot of good channels. Trench Grenade gave a really phenomenal fucking breakdown, and he does it in a good Barney style way for all of us military guys. So I highly recommend checking out one of his most recent videos. There's also Chris Cappy, Task and Purpose. I think he's really good at breaking down stuff as well. Mike Glover also gave something. Obviously, these are channels that I watch that I trust for credible sources. So if you don't like what I'm saying, I'm telling you there are very relevant people who can give you this information much better than I can. I'm going to break it down even more than Barney Styles. I'm giving you fucking meat and potatoes, and that's it. The limited experience I've had in the military has dictated that entire thing should not have happened. All right? And I'm not just saying an assassination attempt. I'm saying the entire setup should not have happened the way that it did. All right? I have not experienced someone shooting at me, but I have experienced running towards a situation that increases your own mortality. I swore an oath as a hospital corpsman to make sure if one of my team goes down, I am the first line to make sure that they're still alive. And sometimes we are trained, if you cannot render care effectively under fire, then you return fire until you can. Obviously, I never practiced that in place, in person, but I still have done quite a few things in my life, both before I was in the military and post-service, where I put myself in increased danger to help someone because that was always my nature. And now being a medical professional and having skills, I feel it's a duty to me, to those around me to fucking do it. So I think the response time of the Secret Service was as good as can be. You know, it only takes a milliseconds to do this versus, you know, running up and fucking tackling him. But I will say the coverage of the president was not good. I mean, maybe we lucked out in every sense. You know, he didn't die, which I'm going to get into that in a second as well. He didn't die, and we got some really good memes. But the fact that you could clearly see our president's fucking head only seconds after fire rang out, like, no. Why do you have a short ass fucking woman in his front? Why is he not being pushed the fuck down? Why? Why was the situation set for failure? All right. 130 yards. I'm sorry, 130 meters. Anyone can make that shot. I'm going to be 100% honest with you. I've fired an M4 twice in my entire life. Twice. I fired an AR-15 in the civilian world once. I can hit those shots. Okay? And if you guys had watched any of my videos or you saw my short titled, yes, I just said that on the internet, I didn't expect someone to take that literally. Like, I'm not going to incriminate myself. You can go ahead and listen to what I said. But yes, in that situation, I would only need one shot. You know, it's not a hard shot. Now, granted, there is tremendous amounts of stress. I'm sure that motherfucker was suddenly realizing what he was doing and knew he was signing his own fucking death warrant. But that's not a hard shot. Obviously, he shouldn't have gotten there in any way, shape, or form. Any fucking way, shape, or form. Again, I highly recommend Trench Grenade. He describes PTSD, personal security details. I've never done contracting work. I've briefly done security work when I was in the Navy Reserve. But that was for a warehouse, and I worked on the external. So I don't even know that much when it comes to security shit. But I can safely tell you that we had a warehouse that was probably half of the size of the entire fairground or wherever the fuck that this was taking place in Pennsylvania. And we had multiple entries that were all secured. And since I was the outer cordon, as it's called, the internal had even more people to prevent people from doing shit. So when I'm thinking of a rinky-dink warehouse shipping company has more security than a former fucking president, that's not right, man. That's beyond not right. Like, I have been conditioned in my life with my personal experiences that you cannot fuck up that bad without intent. So we're going to talk about now what was the intent of this. Obviously, in most situations, this was an assassination attempt that had failed. The reason why it failed was pure luck. Or, and I'll actually go out there and say it, probably divine intervention. I guarantee you America would be on fire if they were successful. Even if it was for a day, even if it was for a night, even if it was just in local areas, that sets such an awful tone and precedence for the country right now. And I'm going to go on this tangent before I fucking finish the rest of my thoughts here. But think about this, right? when I've been talking about the things that I'm talking about on my channel, I am telling us that we cannot do these actions morally yet because we are not being pushed in the situation. All right? There is a form of tyranny that is taken over, and we have a lot of our rights restricted, not outright removed. The people who are in power do not care about its constituents. The things that we need to do are still nonviolent. And if we are going to use violence, they need to be on the right people. And this may be this might be a hard thing to swallow for a lot of the liberals and Democrats out there. Trump is not the person who needs the violence. There is quite a lot more people in higher forms of government currently and behind the scenes that need violence. So, I have always said, if you feel you are doing this for your home, the moral implications, the justice that needs to be done, those are the motivations that you need to do. Those are the reasons you become a direct action man, a militia man, a patriot. This man who attempted to assassinate the president was not any of those things. And this is why I tell you, you need to be prepared and you need to be ready for these things. Because that could have been a literal spark to a powder keg. And it just sets a bad precedence that we feel emboldened enough to try these things. All right? All the assassinations that happened in American history with our presidents, they were during tumultuous times. And considering they were, that leads to desperation. Desperation leads to fear. Fear leads to reaction. Reaction leads to World War III. Or a civil war. But honestly, they hand in hand. A civil war is going to lead to World War III. World War III is going to lead to a civil war. And they seriously will. So, I would be extremely careful in anything that you do within the next few days. I live in the northwest suburbs. I don't live in Chicago anymore. I guarantee I'm not going to Chicago for at least a week. And that's not just because we're blues. Chicago is blue, even though the rest of the state's red as shit. I'm not being in a heavily populated area. I'm not doing that. I'm probably just going to stay at home, do a lot of my work from home stuff, might postpone or reconsider a bunch of things, but I don't want to go out in public. All right? And I highly encourage you to stay away from heavily populated areas, major cities, unless absolutely necessary. And whether you live in a state with recognition to your Second Amendment rights or not, I'm going to highly advise that you carry, no matter what. And not only should you carry medical equipment as well. And you should carry anything that will make you effective in the event of a situation. All right? Again, I had that duty to act. I feel that. I swore that oath. You may not. But we don't want this to kick off. We don't want an apocalypse. We don't want a without rule of law. You don't, all right? I can't even tell you how much shit you've not actually considered until you suddenly don't have the thing. And I don't want to get into that because that's not what this video is. But if it wasn't for literal divine intervention or luck, we would be here already. We would actually be fucked up and starting a huge landslide of failures. So, when I think of something that could only be done with intent, I now wonder who had the intent. I'm going to start with the liberal and democratic side. And I'm going to start with the AI machine that is news media outlet. I can't tell you how frustrating it was to not have clear access to information in the first couple of minutes because all these reliable news sources were completely dismissing what had happened, while all of the, I would consider, extremist news outlets were actually more accurate for once. Now, thankfully, there's good resources on YouTube, like T-Supply. I don't know how to pronounce his name, who is very good at his intel. And he live streamed and he got a lot of good information out there instantly through his channels and resources. But those first few minutes when I'm independently researching was very chaotic, and I didn't like that. But the overall concern was to downplay it completely, and then as soon as it became apparent that this was an actual assassination attempt, okay, well, now it was pre-staged. It was planned. Well, let's think about that for a second, right? Well, I just fucking said that a 130-meter shot anyone could fucking make. I stand by that. Virtually anyone can make that, because I know I could make that. Maybe with stress and all that shit I wouldn't be able to, but it doesn't matter. You just need the one shot, and he had already missed his first shot. The point is, if he set that up, how much faith and trust do you have in someone to not shoot you? Okay, I don't care if you offered me $1 billion, a multi-million-dollar home, and Margot Robbie in a nightie. If you let the number one fucking shooter on the planet take a shot at me to miss me at 130 meters, I'd be like, go fuck yourself. No, I don't ever want to be shot at. Why would you ever want to do something like that? And people are going to be like, oh, well, it was all set up so there wasn't real bullets. Really? A motherfucker's head got fucking lit up and exploded in the bleachers behind where Trump would have been shot. Someone clearly fired real fucking bullets, okay? So I don't care how good you are. I am not letting anyone shoot at me for any fucking reason ever. That's not happening. Go fuck yourself. Okay? I don't know anything about that guy who did try to assassinate the president. I don't want to say his name. I don't really know anything about him. I don't care. I don't want to know that shit, okay? All I know is that he's 20. He looks like a fucking incel. And he does not look like number one Navy SEAL sniper who could fuck around and make this a hoax. I'm just going to go ahead and say that, right? Who knows? Maybe he really is the world's best shot, and he somehow did that. But I can safely tell you, 99.9% of human beings on this planet are not going to trust something like that. Okay? So, we cannot debate if real bullets were fired. They were. All right? Someone lost their life, and a couple of people were injured from it. So that's if you're going to go ahead and say that they faked that shit too, okay, well, tell that to the family who doesn't have their father tonight. That's all I'm going to say on that. I don't think it was staged. In that sense. All right. Let's go to the Republic side really quick, the red side of things. Why would Secret Service, who had already been picked to protect Trump after his presidency, be denied resources for a rally and not allowed what many would consider basic considerations for something like this? Why would you not give the manpower necessary? Why would that manpower not utilize all the resources around them? And why the fuck is a goddamn building unguarded? What the fuck? Like, I can't even go into more detail on that. To me, that's just as absurd as someone thinking that this is a hoax. Like, I'll give you this. I 100% agree it is a setup. I just can't tell you who set it up. Was it the deep state? Were they trying to silence Trump the only way that they could at this point? A brazen show of force? Well, all they've done now is basically ensure he's going to win. And I'm going to let you all right know. He is going to win now. Like, if he doesn't win, that's almost as bad as him actually getting assassinated. Because if you think January 6th was his thing, holy shit, dude. I would light this fucking country up if I was in Trump's shoes and I somehow didn't get the presidency after nearly being assassinated. That right there would prove that this entire system's fucked, and I would literally just start funding, be like, all right, guys, take down the government. Here we go. Maybe he will, maybe he won't. Maybe he's still not going to make it because he's going to get aced another way. That should still put us all on high alert. That means something's fucked up and not right. But I'll also concede maybe he did set it up. Like I said, I wouldn't let anyone shoot at me for virtually anything. But I don't know. Maybe when you have that much money, you can pay off family members so their fucking fathers can get their head blown off, or the people around you can get fucking bullet fragments in their fucking bodies. I don't know. But I will say, if he did set that up to ensure his victory, well, that's pretty much what he did. Like I said, he's probably going to be the president now. So that makes me think from all angles, right? That makes me really kind of, because like I said, I don't like Trump. I really don't. I now recognize the reality of the situation, though. If he would have died, the world would be on fire, even if it was for a day. Since he didn't die, he's most likely going to win the presidency now. That means he's a bigger target, which means if it was the deep state, they're going to try and find other ways to kill him. And when they do, that's going to open a lot of people's eyes. He might literally become a martyr. If he doesn't die, he somehow makes it to the elections, and he doesn't win, I'm telling you, man, even if you're not a Trump supporter, like this really is it. You have to vote for him now. You actually do. And you want to know why? It's because that's what big government is afraid of you doing. And if it's not big government, maybe it's just a whole fucking ploy. Whatever. He was already a president once. As a veteran and someone who served during his time of service, I kind of didn't hate him for what he did for us. I could live under another 4 years of Trump. I had to do it before. I had to be in uniform. I had to fucking swear an oath to that man. I can handle 4 years outside. I really can. And I'm sure you guys can too. Even if you're a Democrat and you vote democratically and you're very blue side, okay, man, I get it. I used to be that way when I would subscribe to the political bullshit. You cannot deny the odds are stacked against you, because not only is Joe Biden fucking mentally incompetent and literally a walking dementia patient, his gross mishandling, anything that he says is going to just further bury that fucking hole. And you guys know it. Any cringe, dumb shit that he fucking says, short of suddenly regaining sentience, he is going to fuck up whatever he has to say about this whole thing. And it's just going to make it worse. So, if Trump does win, does that mean that they're going to stop his attacks? I mean, they're already stopping his potential felony judgments until who really knows when. Maybe it'll be after his presidency. Maybe it'll be during his presidency. I don't know. The political system is so fucking messed up right now. I cannot tell you what's going to happen and what's not going to happen. All I can fucking tell you is that there are a lot of angles that you need to be considering right now, because at the end of the day, all the information I presented to you is just me opening your mind to the fact that we are in one of the most dangerous times in history. Because as we progress as a society, as we progress with technology, assassination attempts should not, there should be no logistical way for it to happen. And if it does happen, it happens with intent. Who had intent? A lot of parties. Some had positive intent, a lot had negative intent. But there was. And I want you to be aware of that. This was not just dumb luck that all culminated with divine intervention having to stop this motherfucker from doing it. This was intent. This was set up. And the only thing I can't tell you is what side did it. So, what does that all mean, especially coming from my channel? Well, My channel is called Clandestine Carry Concept. And again, I'm not glorifying this, and this is why I saved this to the very end. This man kind of encapsulated what I was talking about. I don't know how much he planned. Like I said, I'm choosing not to participate in his media circuit. But this man went with intent. He knew what his mission was going to be. He knew what his target was going to be. He surveyed the area. He found a weakness, an opportunity, and he had initiative to take it. He got up there and he did it. Now, if it was set up, everything was set for him to do it, right? It doesn't matter. He still had the balls to do it. So we got up there and he choked at the last second. Or maybe he hit everything he was supposed to hit. Whatever you want. That's what a DA guy needs to encapsulate. The difference between a DA guy and that man is the intent. His intent was most likely guided by the wrong hands. The actions you're going to take as a DA guy, a Minuteman, anyone in the situation and society that we're going to live in shortly, it has to be for your community. It has to be morally right, ethically right, and you have to be able to live with the consequences of your actions. Final time I'm going to say, I am not condoning what he did, because there is no way probably to prove what this was until, like Randall from Grunt Style said, till the 2060s, after they fucking declassify this because we're all old and dead and don't care. There's no way we're going to know what happened. So we need to proceed with extreme caution, like anything could fall at a moment's notice. This is why I built my channel. These are the things that I'm going to be talking about. And in the near future, I'm going to get more in depth with a lot more stuff. But I obviously had to make a video about this. I had to fucking talk about all the different considerations. And I needed to also show practical purpose. This is what DA guys are going to need to do when society collapses. I just can't stress enough. It has to be for the right reasons. If you can't think of a single one, don't do them. If your rationale doesn't line up with those around you in your community, you're probably wrong. There's always a chance that your community is just sympathizers and they don't care and they don't want conflict and they don't want risk. I mean, hey man, that's why I said there's going to be some DA guys who operate completely independently. You're going to die. You're going to be an isolated fucking individual and your community's going to turn on you. But another thing I said in one of my videos is one man can make a difference. And one 20-year-old nearly made that proof for you. Keep that in mind. It's scary for me to see someone enact what I'm talking about when I don't even have like 5 fucking followers. But this also proves to me what I'm talking about actually makes sense. And I'm not saying you should listen to me. All I'm saying is that there's a reason I'm putting this out there. And I think there are people who have the right mindset, who care about their community, who care about the world not fucking ending. And they're going to do what they can to provide for themselves, their family, and their community before the fall, during the fall, and after. And I hope you're one of them. And I hope you stay safe and you stay tuned.